Well, welcome everyone. It's great to see all of you coming into the room. Thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon. I'm Barbara Boone from the Ohio State University, the Statewide Family Engagement Center, and we are here to sort of kick off our year of Ohio's Partnership Schools Initiative with your state support teams and districts in your regions. We're really excited about this year of being able to sort of roll up our sleeves with this first two cohorts, 1 and 2, and really sort of implement with them. So we're glad that you're here. Thanks for joining us. And if you would please, give me a second here, my slides. All right. So if you would go ahead and just let us know who's here. We really appreciate you doing that. And we are going to be behind the scenes sort of matching our list, our contact list for all of you and the districts that you're coaching and the regions you're from to make sure that everything that we think we know is accurate so we can really be in good contact with you this year. And if you're new, let us know that you're new as well. We definitely want to give you all the support you need to sort of get on board and get up and running this year. So, and we'll keep talking more about that. If you're not a coach for one of the Ohio Partnership Schools in this NNPS model, I'm trying to avoid saying NNPS model. Let's call it Ohio's Partnership Schools, all right? If you're a coach for one of the partnership districts, that's super. If you're not, what we're going to let us know what SST you're here from, and when we all get together and have our coaching conversations, we want to make sure that you're in the same room as the coaches from your region. So we always welcome whoever wants to come from your state support teams, because we know how great it is when you are all working hard to integrate your work and see how they connect. And we know it really helps sometimes if you can come together to meetings like this one. So welcome to all of you. Here's what we have sort of set aside for today, as we sort of indicated in our meeting agenda to you earlier. One, just, quick introductions and things here, and then we're going to jump into, I want to do a quick just sort of overview of this Ohio Partnership Schools Initiative, those big picture goals that we have, what the big picture is, just to sort of get us all anchored in. If you're like me, and I know that you all may be on meeting 8 or 9 for the day, and maybe meeting 62 for your week. And so just okay, here's what we're talking about. Here's what we're here to do. We're going to make sure that we land there. And then I also want to talk about resources that are available to you to make sure that you know the different things you can tap into as a coach, the resources for you. We want to look a little bit at some data results from our surveying and data collection in 2021. We have more data than I'll share with today, but we want to focus on a little bit on that so we can learn from that and make adjustments. And then we have some time set aside for you to do some reflection with your peers, with other coaches. And then and finally here, we are going to make sure that you kind of leaving here, you're kind of like, check, I know the expectations of me as a coach, know what the timeline is, know what dates and things are. And of course, anytime throughout, please throw your questions in the chat, something you were really hoping that we would talk about today, put it in the chat at any time. And we will make sure that we're paying attention to that. So anything else you want us to cover today, please put it in the chat. And I'm just going to keep moving along because it's Friday afternoon, and that's what we want to do on a Friday afternoon, is keep moving along. Thank you all again for being here, for introducing yourselves in the chat. So as you know, so just anchoring this again, we have this sort of nested model of delivery of this initiative of Ohio's Partnership Schools in this training. Ohio State, we could have, selected some schools and gone out and talked to their principals and worked with them. And we didn't feel like that was the best, most sustainable, most capacity building model we could do. We felt like working with you to provide training and the coaching that you bring to district leaders, who then are leading and working with their building leaders, who have their teams, their teachers and their families who they know best, who are developing their local plans. That's that nested approach of how we are approaching this in Ohio. And that's where we are. We estimate in this model that if we sort of take the average, number of people and families in a school, if with the number, if we just go with the basic number of districts we're hoping to reach, that's 10,000 families in Ohio. And we know that the ripple effect is much more in all of the work that you're doing and that the schools and the districts are doing as well. We are excited, for instance, let me just share this with you, that Columbus City Schools is committed to taking this model into all of their schools. They're rolling it out over a few years, but they have a district leader. And we happen to, a colleague of ours, her husband is a principal in Columbus City Schools, and he was in his principal training, and he took a snapshot of the screen and was shared with us that there he was learning about that this model was something that he was going to be trained in and be able to use in his school. And it was just great to see it sort of coming full circle. So what a ripple effect of, we think of Columbus as like one of the districts we're working with, and Columbus is saying we've got many schools and this is something we want to do district wide. So we know that in all of your different regions, there's many ways that that you are spreading the capacity to utilize this model in your districts, and we're just grateful for that. So some things to think about. So in this model, we are taking this nested approach, and one of the basic things, if we think about, well, this approach, it's an evidence-based approach, lots of research behind it. So what are the things that make it what are those things that we do with fidelity? Through PBIS or instruction, whenever we implement an evidence-based model, there are those things that we need to do, or else we're not implementing that evidence-based model, right? We don't pick and choose. So one of the things in this evidence-based model is that there's a leader for partnerships, and that those leader for partnerships, they have two main responsibilities, and these are the folks that you are coaching. And those folks, so the first is that they are going to conduct leadership level activities on family and community engagement. And those things have been outlined in the handbook. They were outlined in the district leader training. They have a district leader plan. So those are those district level activities. And you as a coach are coaching them in their sort of implementation of those activities. That second piece is that they are then facilitating each school's action team for partnership. So they are working with school leaders who are then, so that district leader has their district plan, and they're working with their school leaders. And all of this towards a program of partnership, right? Their family engagement as a district level initiative. We're working at the district level, we're working at the building level so that we can get to student outcomes. So all aligned. And in Ohio, this is new, and you probably recognize the slide. This is one of Joyce Epstein's slides. But she also added for Ohio that we have coaches in this process, that you are guiding these district leaders in their two main responsibilities. So just if you are new, if you're thinking about this, our hope is that you are not sitting in school buildings, sitting at their action team for partnership meetings, but that you are implementing your coaching with those district leaders, and we're working that sort of nested approach. Okay, so another part of this evidence-based model, okay, we have a district leader. We also have an action team at the school level. Now, this is, again, these are sort of out of the handbook. These are out of the training that you've had with Dr. Epstein, and you see what Barb has highlighted here. Our priority, which we know in many, many of our schools is the newest thing, is the most different kind of thing that they may be doing, is that they are inviting families into the shared leadership process, that they have families at the table, bringing a family perspective to their implementation of their family engagement planning. So this is different. We know it is. And of course, we wouldn't want just like our 3 easiest to access families, but we would like to see equitable access, right? Who are our families? Who are our students? We should have a family of a student who's receiving special education services. We should have a family maybe from different grade levels, families who are maybe represent a recent immigrant group into our community. So who are those families? That's key. Boy, if you could put on that, if you have a coaching priority list, things that you're going to ask about and emphasize, and perhaps assist with developing ideas, and as a coach, here's one. This is what I have highlighted here. We know that this is different. We know that this is hard. We know that this is scary for schools. But this is part of when this model works, families are present at the table. So if we're going to implement it with fidelity, we've got families at the table. All right, I'm going to keep moving us along here. Another part of this, and let's use the chat for this. If you guys would kind of lean into your keyboards, I see folks writing, and lean into your keyboards here. So there are 6 types. Dr. Epstein's model says we have 6 types. And what it helps us to do is to not think about family engagement as just like, it's all of this. It gives us 6 sort of buckets, 6 categories of family engagement practices for us to consider in our planning. 6 types. Anybody want to throw one of the types in the chat? Let's see if we can just pull all 6 types up here. Communication. All right. Thank you. Learning from home. Here's another one. Parenting. There's a 3rd. Volunteering. There's a 4th. We need 2 more. Community. Collaborating with the community. And decision making. Thank you, Kim Moritz, bringing the last one home for us. Thank you. All right. So we have 6 types. Absolutely. So these are the 6 types, and these types are ways of organizing our thinking, ways of sort of expanding our thinking as we address a student, either academic or behavioral goal. Then we're going to think through what are the different types of practices, of family engagement practices that we want to bring to bear in our plan towards this goal. That's what these do, these types. And there's lots of course, content on this in your handbooks, again, around what this looks like in schools, what it doesn't look like, what the challenges are, and what the typical outcomes are that we see from research from these types. If we think about family engagement practices in these types. I see equity is not written here. I see inclusion's not written here. I see accessibility's not written here. There are definitely things that we need to pay attention to really implement high quality family engagement that aren't a type. These are more of those big buckets of practices. So I hope that you will, because I would want to see equity within these, right? We would want to see a cultural responsiveness within these. So just because you don't see a key of equity, I want you to know that's here. We can layer into this a multi-tiered approach as well if we are communicating. So please don't think those things are absent from here. They're just, these buckets are a way of categorizing family engagement. And then within these, we can work as well. So this helps us to organize our thinking around this. All right. Another piece. So we have a district leader. We have a building leader and their team, right? We have that building level team. That building level team is going to be considering family engagement in 6 key areas. So we've got these are the elements of really implementing this partnerships approach with Fidelity. We're going to have those things in place. Another thing that we're going to have in place is a plan. And that plan is directed at that objective for student learning or behavior that's in the middle there. This is one, you'll recognize this again from Dr. Epstein's slides. And it's in the handbook as well. It's not necessarily how a plan is written eventually, right? The form for the plan looks differently, but I think this could be a helpful way of folks sort of thinking about the types and what types of practices they might use in their practices to address this student objective, right? So this is how those types relate to this. So there's 2 things here to recognize. Evidence-based family engagement, high impact family engagement in research, we know is focused on an outcome for students. It's focused on an outcome for teachers, for parents. There's an outcome associated as opposed to a compliance, like we have to have a parent meeting check. That doesn't get us anywhere except a good check on a piece of paper. What we want to get to is changes in outcomes for students and sometimes that's changing adult behavior. So that's where we're going with this. So what this does is this keeps the focus on the goal, the objective. And that's part of this, implementing this with this model with Fidelity, is that leading the work, leading the practices is the goal for students. So if we're doing a behavioral one, we're not thinking about, well, gee, we're doing PBIS and we really want to have a celebration, so let's plan that and we'll bring families. I would go back and say, why are you celebrating? What are students? What's the gain? What's the behavioral change? What's the gains we're going to see in students for that? And then by all means, let's have that celebration and bring families, but let's see that direct correlation. And if not, then let's reel ourselves back, right? And focus on a student outcome. So this is something else that we are going to see as a part of this model if we are implementing it with fidelity. Now, I know this is review. I just hope it's good to like kind of make sure we're all oriented here thinking. So in your coaching, these are the things we want, the elements that we want to look for. Do we hear the 6 key types? Do we hear building leaders in teams? Do we see that there are families on the teams? These are good questions to be asking and prompting as you are leading and coaching. All right. So what indicates fidelity in a strong program of practice? District support. I'm kind of reviewing here things that I just said. District support is going to be something that we see. We're going to see a designated leader in the district. They're not going to go, I don't know who's doing. That's right. There's going to be someone. There's going to be someone for you to meet with. There's going to be a district plan, and there's going to be the coaching for them for building leaders. So at the district level, we're going to see that district leader is coaching, is working with those building leaders. They have a plan, and of course, and there's a person there doing that. So we have that designated leader. If we see this process, this approach to family engagement, if we implemented with fidelity, we're going to see a building level team. It's representative of the school as well. So we don't want, I remember one school that I worked with, they had all the teachers that were on the team were all like, we had the phys ed teacher, an art teacher, and a music teacher, which was cool. But I was trying to think about the planning around addressing an academic goal and other things. And I thought, are the teachers at this table representative of the teachers in the building? Are they going to be able to speak to instruction of core content? I don't know. It was so just thinking. That's no judgment at all on the teachers and the representative. We're not going to have every teacher in the building, certainly for sure. So we want to think about representative, and we want to see that there are family members that are representative on that team. Okay, so a representative building level team. There are others. In the high school, we want students on that team. Having community partners, there are others who are sort of recommended on those teams. I think I am really looking at those core things and really wanting to focus this year on making sure we have families at the table. Again, attention to data and outcomes for students. We will see that, not just say, well, we want to do this thing. What could we do with families? Like, that's awesome, but why? What data are we basing this on? What outcomes for students are we directing this towards? And here is where I think we often have an opportunity to address inequity in access, because our data is the place where we often see that. What students aren't achieving at the levels that we know they can and should be. What families aren't making it or connecting with us. So, we want to look in the gaps, just like we would with any data. Here's an opportunity for us to say, let's do a tier 2 family engagement strategy. Let's do something more intensive or more targeted. And let's really make sure that we are reaching and providing access and opportunity to all families. So here's where I hope that in your coaching conversations that you will talk about inequity and access. And you don't need to use those words, of course. Use the words that are going to resonate and motivate folks. We want opportunity for every family and every kiddo. All right. Let me keep moving along here. We have, let's see, finally, that plan for family engagement action steps that's aligned to student outcomes. So we're going to see activities that address those inequities. It can include tier 1, 2, and 3. So here's in your coaching, feel free to introduce this. And because I think this is not something that's super explicit in the handbook or in the training from Joyce, is that these can be very intensive practices for a few individual students and their families. It can be tier 2, it can be tier 1. So not every practice is a universal practice. So keep that in mind, please. Being culturally responsive, of course, we would want being preventative, not being problem focused, but just like we do in a lot of our planning with core instruction or core behavioral supports, those are preventative and proactive, and sustained throughout the year. So we don't want events based, right? No, it's not that we can't have events, but 2 events in a year is not sustained support for families, and it's just not enough. It's like 2. It's not enough dosage, right, of support and in partnership with families. 2 events does not build trust. and a working relationship. So sustained practices. And I would urge you to help to have them consider professional development for their teachers as an action step in their plan. I think we're asking for a lot of adult change implementing this model, maybe with not professional development for staff as well. And I think sometimes that happens. So let's consider that as a coach, that opportunity to suggest that. So resources for you as a coach. I know I'm moving along quickly here, and I'm going to pause, and we're going to have time to, but I just want to make really good use of this time together by making sure you have information that you need. And so those resources. Number one, Meredith and I and Kristen, who are here, we are going to be holding those monthly meetings for you. You are welcome to bring a district leader to that as well if you feel like they would like that. But we have those monthly meetings for you. We'll record them. We'll send you a newsletter after that, a monthly newsletter for you. We've been admiring the Literacy Network state newsletter that is for the SSTs, and so we're trying to model one after that, so you kind of get just-in-time information when you need it in a way that's sort of concise and helpful. So we're doing that as well. All the recorded trainings and webinars are available to you and accessible on the website. If you are new or if you want to refresh, I'd like for you to consider last August's training for coaches with Dr. Epstein. That would be something you could actually jump around in and maybe just listen to the parts of it that you think are the things that you want to brush up on. Another thing is always, you can email, call me, Meredith, Kristen. We will schedule a meeting with you. Happy to do this. Please don't ever feel like we're too busy. We're busy, but this is so important, and our being accessible to you to do planning one-on-one is absolutely something that we want to do. But we want to do that sort of for your guidance. So please use us in whatever way you would like. You also, with this model, and there's those membership fees, but Dr. Epstein and her team at Johns Hopkins is also available for you to pick up the phone, to send an email. They are accessible to you as well. So they are a resource to you as a coach. And then, of course, there's the grant funding. There's that little bit of grant funding that we are providing to each of your state sport teams to support your efforts there. So those are all sort of resources for you to draw on. All right, Barb, you just did a sprint. So let's stop for a minute here. And what I'd like for you to do is be able to spend some time just talking with one another. So we're going to get you into rooms with 3 state support teams, 3 coaches, and maybe if you have anyone else from your SST with you. And here are the things that we'd like to talk about. They are the things that we sent to you ahead of time in the email about this meeting. What's been working for you with your district leader? What do you want to do more of this year? What challenges do you need to address? And what supports do you need to provide the best coaching that you can? We were hoping that each of one of you would take just a couple minutes, share your perspective with the others, and then you would step back from that and kind of talk with one another about priorities and questions and sharing with one another. So we're going to set aside 15 minutes for you, each of you to or for your groups to be together. All right. So if you're not in the right room, or we can help you get in the right room. So I'm just going to stop. I just talked really fast. We've got some information there. Now let's just talk about your experiences in coaching and using these 4 prompts. And I think Meredith might send us to breakout.
Want me to open the rooms now?
Yeah, let's open the rooms. Here we go.
Here we go. Assign yourself to a room.
Pick a room. You get to pick a room. All right. Well, welcome back. We have just a couple minutes here. It'd be great to hear from some of you if there were any resounding questions that came out of that discussion, or just notes of something of note you want to let us all know. It'd be great to hear from you now if you want to unmute your microphone.
Two things that were in ours. One was Michelle's idea of taking your different cohort leaders and possibly not only having meetings with them separately, but bringing them together as a network so that you kind of cohorts 1, 2, and 3 can kind of meld together too, so that when you are weaned away, they also have another network of people that they can refer to. And building those networks and building that inside out growth is kind of what you're trying to do. I like that idea. The other thing we did in our training this time was we included our cohort 1 person in our training. They presented. So the districts that came were asking her questions about what she did as the actual person doing it. And we found that was really helpful to those that participated. Mm-hmm. So it was good having your side by side, shoulder to shoulder, but at the same time, telling those nuts and bolts things that may not always be in the training of what you need to do in different hints and ideas. So that worked well for us.
Thanks, Steve. What a great idea. And if there is some way when you're thinking about implementing that somehow we can help support that, let us know. I think that's phenomenal. Thank you. Does someone else want to share a nugget or a question from your discussion?
Barb, I'll share.
Thanks, Missy.
Hey, we talked about a lot of great things, but when we were summing up our conversation, we just talked about how supportive our network is and the open communication that you guys have with us, and just how much we appreciate the resources and support that you provide us so that we can go out and do this work. So thank you, and we're excited for this new year.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Missy. That's we certainly want to do that, so it's great to hear some good news about that. And you know, one of the things we were chatting about is that we want to make sure that, especially if you are new to your coaching role this year, that you know, if we can host another training for new coaches or something like that, we will. So let's keep thinking about the supports that you want from us this year, and we are certainly, you know, if we haven't already thought about it, we're willing to develop new and do more. So just let us know. Thanks. So I'm going to go ahead and keep kind of moving through information. I was just trying to give you all big overview, sort of the whole picture in one meeting here, and then we can go deeper at some other times. So here's what I want to share with you, a little bit of what we learned from last year's survey. So just so you know, at our level, as like the federal grantee, we report back data on the work that you all are doing, from the district leaders, from the school teams, and as you know, last spring we surveyed family members and teachers in the buildings. So all of that data gets rolled up and reported back. And so there are certain benchmarks that we're hoping to hit on those things as well. So, but what did we learn this last year that we want to share with you now? And we're going to be sharing more of this during our monthly meetings. But we wanted to share it sort of more just in time, as opposed to overloading you now with everything that we learned. So, first of all, our data collection from cohort 1 tells us that the district leaders all see you as great supporters. So that is great to hear, very confirmatory. No surprises there. We also know that most of the action teams, those school level teams, and they can name them whatever they want to call their team. In this model, they call them Action Team for Partnerships. So the ATPs are meeting regularly at least once every other month. We would really like to see this increase to once a month to build capacity and to build momentum, even if it's a sub work group in the interim months. You know, if they have a work group that's really focusing on their behavioral goals and their PBIS family engagement, or they have a group that's really working on some family engagement around mathematics. And so even if it's a subgroup at work, I think month to month is going to carry more momentum and keep things moving along and help to really strengthen this work. So that would be our encouragement. And if you as a coach can kind of lean in and talk about that, that would be super. Another piece is that that in general, the action teams at the school level are all working together. That And we like to see them all working together really well. And that's going to lead to strong programs of partnerships when we see, a team actually sort of really working together. And that's going to lead to engaging more families. And so, and changes for students. So having those teams work well together. So, they were asked to sort of respond on what level of interaction were they having with one another. And you can see that 65% of them reported that their action team was already operating at a sort of a coordination level. Some 22% reporting that they were operating at that highest level of collaboration. So this is great to see. That to me is an indicator that folks were having a positive experience, if nothing else, in these meetings. Some other things that we're learning from this data is that about a third of you and a third of district leaders would like more training in the implementation of this approach, and that the building level teams, roughly about a quarter of them, so not all of them, about a quarter of them would like more guidance from their coaches and from their district leaders. So that's something we want to roll up our sleeves. What does more guidance look like? And so you might ask that of your district leader. What does it look like for me to provide you with more guidance? Do you want more guidance from me? What would that look like? And we don't want you to feel alone in that. So if they say, yeah, you could really offer me more training in this or a session on that, call us. How can we help you provide that? How can we facilitate that? We want to support you in that. And then, I'm not advancing my points here so that you can see. So about 23% of the action team members indicated that they would like additional guidance from their SST coach in implementing this model, and about 22% would like more guidance from their district facilitator, and about 26%, so roughly about the same level, would like to receive additional training in the implementation of this model. So we know that not all members of the action teams were able to come to or came to the team meetings, the training that we had. So one way that we could do this is as we bring on a third cohort to really emphasize getting that team members together to make it to that training. So we can get more people to the training that's intended for them. But then also thinking together with you about how do we, within the district or within your region or at a state level, how do we continue to provide more training beyond just that we have all of the trainings recorded and accessible? How do we facilitate that support for them? The other way that we are support to this, sorry about this. Let me just say that in response to this, we are offering 2 half-day trainings with Dr. Epstein this year for cohort 1 and cohort 2. Those are on the schedule. And then we're also open to providing other trainings for you or with you in groups or individually. So as you indicate, there's a need for more training here. If it's not something we have on the schedule already, it's not something you want to say, I don't want to use the recording for this one, then let's figure out how we can provide that training. So we will do that with you. A couple other ways of accessing training, not particularly directly in this model, but as I indicated before, other professional development around high quality family engagement to accompany this, or having professional development for our teachers or our administrators as one of our action steps is a great idea. And so 2 outstanding ways that just are ready right now is, of course, they can attend the training on September 17th, that virtual Family Engagement Leadership Summit. They can register for this. And so while this is not training in this model, just like PBS is a framework, and then we institute in that different programs and practices, this is the same way. We have a framework, we have a goal. So how do we then implement effective practices for family engagement to get to those goals? These are opportunities for that. There's a track around mental health, around leading family engagement around transitions, and also around family engagement around sort of expanding opportunity for all. So working with family engagement in race, family engagement working with immigrant families, and others as well. So that is one option. And that could be a part of an action plan, is that their folks are going to be a part of the summit. Another is we offered our first course. It's all virtual some asynchronous, part synchronous, part asynchronous course, the Foundations of Family Engagement course, which would be phenomenal for any teachers or administrators. And so we offered that. It was kind of like in a consolidated week this summer. And what we heard from folks is if we spread it out and offered it this winter, like so folks would do sort of a piece once a week for a few weeks in a row, that would be better. So you can look to that note. We will definitely offer it. And we'll get to you specific dates on that. And there will be no cost to either of these for them. So I hope that they would take opportunities. So as you know, easy thing for them to insert into their plans this year, into their district plan, building plans, access to professional development. So here's the schedule. Meredith is posting it for you. It is also posted already on your the website for you all that we have on our website, your login. So you'll see here basically we have a meeting with you, and then we have monthly meetings together every month. The two dates, October 22nd and January 21st, that are in gray there, you see that those are half day times, the 9 to noon events with Dr. Epstein, where we're going to be working with just cohort 1 and 2 on going deeper with this model. And then you'll see in the spring, the dates for the cohort 3 are there. So this full schedule is there. But like I said, if we need to insert another one, like training for new coaches, we can do that. We also learned from the surveys this year that only 20% of the teachers reported that there was an action team for partnership in their school. So 20% of the teachers who had action team knew about it, and 75 reported that they didn't know. So another sort of, I think, low-hanging fruit this year may be creating more awareness for a district leader or for a building leader, creating more awareness amongst their staff that they indeed have a team in their building that is focused on family engagement. There's a field guide from Claremont Northeastern that we have posted that we can share as an example of one way that one district sort of created more awareness about their how they are implementing this model. Only 10% of family members in the schools reported that there was a team in their school, and 87% did not know. So again, we know building awareness, getting the word out, getting up to speed, it's really hard to do. And last year we were virtual. There were a lot of things, a lot of challenges to that. But something this year to think about, how do we advance awareness that this work is important, that our schools are focused on this. So raising awareness is something that is a goal for this year. We would love to see that there's much more awareness among family members and among staff about the work that their schools are doing. So this fall, just quickly, I want to share with you that we have a data collection this fall, and I see our time is coming to a close here in just shortly. So that you know, this there will be early action steps surveys for new SST coaches, district leaders, and ATP members. So the early action steps surveys. So new coaches, if you're new as of July, there's going to be an early action steps survey that will come to district leaders. It's going to be sent to district leaders between September 13th and the 15th. So it'll come close to September 13th, but then they will have some reminders about that. So that's it's the early action survey. What have you got in place now? How are you getting started? And then that's for cohort 2. How you can help around this would be to share those links with the district leaders that you work with. We're going to be sending it to them, but you're back up and saying, hey, did you get that? Can you see that the surveys, folks in your district are responding to that? And perhaps working with them around getting a good, response to those. Not what they say, but just having folks respond to that. So that's sort of what data collection looks like this fall. And then the other would be your coaching logs. This is sort of one per district. You would record after the meeting it's your reminder of your plan, but you also send it to us. It's a way that we are sort of capturing data around the activities, and we look at those and see what progress is being made and how can we help. So those are quarterly. We will remind you. The first one would be October 15th. You're just setting when you met, what was working, what's the focus, what are their next steps, What are your next steps? And what can we do? How can we help? So expectations for coaches, and this is probably just a summary here quickly, attending these trainings with us and attending and with your district leaders, and then meeting with your districts monthly. Attending the Colleague Connect meetings with us, those monthly meetings with us. They are open office hours. We know you have lots of meetings. If you can attend, super duper. If you can't, you check out the recording. We're going to put things in a newsletter. We're going to try to, make it some flexible design there for you so you can access that information in a way that works for you. If you would focus on this model and on the local plan, so if you would kind of keep coming back to the 6 key areas, the team, the district leader, the plans, just kind of keep focusing on this model as what we are implementing, those pieces of fluidity that I shared with earliest. You would let us know what the challenges are. Let's work on facing those together. Also, submit your coaching log. And just support us in the data collection in the ways that you can, so everybody sort of knows what your role is. And then we've got cohort 3 coming along. If you haven't already in your region recruited that 3rd district, we ask that you work on that. Our next time that we meet, the next Colleague Connect, sort of open office hours with us will be September 30th from 10 to 11. And we will definitely have open time. We will also plan to give you sort of some just-in-time information then. And before we leave, we've got 2 things we'd like to do. Before you leave, tell us in the chat your next step or 2 as a coach. I'd like to see that in the chat. What's your next step? And also post any questions you have at this point in time. Okay, setting up cohort network meetings. Thanks, Josh. So you got that idea. Thanks to Steve for sharing that, and Josh picking it up. Meeting with your district leader. Thank you. Monthly meetings. Thank you. Welcoming them back. Thank you. Sort of getting back up to speed. Planning meeting with the superintendent. Action plan meeting with. Thank you. These are wonderful. Reconvening the teams, meeting your district leader. Perfect. All right. So we have a minute here. One of the things we want to make sure of, and please keep using the chat, is I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment, and I'm gonna ask Kristen to share our contact list currently, because we're only going to be able to communicate well with you if we know we have our accurate things here. So on the screen, she is sharing, and I've got the chat open too, so we can keep seeing any questions you have or your notes, your meeting, your intentions, your next steps. But if you would take a look at your region, and then Kristen on here, Kristen, maybe unmute your mic. How would you like them to indicate if they are a cohort 1 or 2 or 3 coach?
I think what would be easiest is who is not a coach for all 3. So if you are not a coach listed here for all 3 of them, in the chat, if you can indicate which cohort you are only a coach for. Would that be the easiest, do you think, Barb?
Sure. Just that sounds like something that will work. That will help us be more targeted. So Susan Larson, you're coaching cohort 2 and 3.
Okay.
And there you go. Thank you. Kim, cohort 3. Terry is supporting Patty. All right. Thanks, Patty, for that. That gives us good context. Steve Short for 1. Heidi Orvash-Kaminsky for 2. Matt for 1. Susan for 2. Marla supports Matt in cohort 1. Okay.
This is perfect.
Yes, it is.
And the nice thing is I can save this chat and make my changes.
All right. Michelle Smith, all. Okay. For those of you who have indicated a 1 and a 2, do you know who will coach cohort 3? Josh Priest, all 3. All right. Boy, today was a whirlwind. We shared a lot, but I hope that was something to get you started. We're going to be following back up with you around additional support for you, particularly if you're a new coach. We want to make sure we reach out to you and that you have the support you need to sort of get up to speed and feel equipped to be a coach in this space. So thank you for hanging out with us for an extra 2 minutes. It's great to spend our Friday afternoon with you, and we will see you all soon in September. If you want to hang out and ask questions, tell us things, tell us what you need, tell us about what your kids are up to. We always love to talk about that too. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.